Hello, everybody, and you are very welcome to this fascinating webinar, Women Making Peace in the Middle East. Thank you all for joining us. Please make yourselves comfortable. We've got some fascinating discussions to be had. During the course of the webinar, if you have any questions or comments to make, please just click on the Q&A tab in Zoom, and a Q&A box will open, and you can type your questions into the Q&A box, and we will get to those questions later on in the webinar. So without any further ado, it is my great pleasure to hand over to your host for the evening, Chaya Singer, Executive Director of the South African Zionist Federation, Cape Council. Chaya, over to you.
Good evening and welcome to everyone joining us in South Africa and around the world, India, the Netherlands, America. My name is Chaya Singer and I'm the Executive Director of the South African Zionist Federation, Cape Council. We are delighted to bring you this webinar in partnership with the UAE Israel Business Council, Women Making Peace in the Middle East. Meet the extraordinary women who are changing the face of the region. Our President Nelson Mandela famously said that reconciliation depends on individuals. It is my pleasure to introduce two of these outstanding individuals, peace pioneers, the Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem, Fleur Hassan Nahum, live from Jerusalem. Shalom, Fleur.
Wonderful being with all of you.
And the face of the historic peace deal in the region, Emirati peace activist, Nura Al-Wadi, coming to us from Dubai. Welcome, Nura.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, shalom. Thank you for having me, it's an honor.
Toda and shukran to both of you for joining us. How incredible that after 73 years of conflict and virtually closed borders, tonight we could just as easily be crossing over to you, Fleur, in Dubai, and you, Nura, in Jerusalem. It's quite surreal. With the historic signing of the Abraham Accords on the 13th of August 2020, we marked a new chapter for peacemaking in the Middle East as the UAE became the third Arab country after Egypt in 1979 and Jordan in 1994 to agree to formally normalize its relationship with Israel. Representing nothing short of a sea change in Arab-Israeli relations, this was followed by further normalization agreements with Bahrain and closer to home, Sudan and Morocco. Deputy Mayor, you are in charge of foreign relations and international economic development and tourism for the city of Jerusalem. How is this peace accord changing the face of the region and challenging years of a stalemate in the Arab-Israeli conflict? Perhaps you can also tell us about the run-up to the Abraham Accords. Was this the worst kept secret in the region?
I actually think it was a very well kept secret. So first of all, it's wonderful being here with all of you. Wonderful being here with Nora. I would say sister, but she calls me auntie. So so my niece, Nora, who's been one of the first, sweetest, warmest people who reached out to Israelis right at the beginning of the signing of the Abraham Accords. And we're so pleased to have so many friends like Nora, so many good, deep friendships. Look, this has completely changed the region forever. Honestly, I cannot overstate enough the impact of this normalization. And I tell you why it was a secret. It was and it wasn't. Israel and the UAE had under the radar normalization now for a number of years. We estimate that before the declaration of the Abraham Accords, there were about 200 Israeli companies already working in the UAE, surreptitiously under the radar, a lot of collaboration, but again, very under the radar, which is always a precursor to what's going to be happening. So I guess anybody looking and paying attention, would have seen that, this is something that could happen. We just didn't imagine it was going to happen so fast. So myself and my co-founder, Dorian Barak, actually created the Business Council in June because he's been doing business in the region for about 10 years. And he kept telling me, Fleur, the next frontier for Israel is the Gulf, is the UAE. That's where it's at. And so at some point I said, all right, then, well, let's set up something so that we can start, having a framework for this normalization. And maybe one day we'll have a peace treaty. Little did we know, this is June, but in August, we were going to, witness this and hear the declaration that we're going to be signing normalization agreements with UAE and then Bahrain, and of course, what's come afterwards, Sudan, Morocco. And, you mentioned earlier that Egypt and Jordan peace deals. And I have to say there's a market difference. And the market difference is that those peace deals were signed from the bottom down. They were signed by the leaders, but it never really it really never trickled down to people. The sanctions, boycotts continued, and incitement against Israel continued. The bad blood continued. And there was nothing really in terms of cultural collaborations and people to people. And this, even though of course it's an agreement that's been signed, and I have to mention here the ruler of the UAE, MBZ, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, that it's very easy to jump in the water when somebody already jumped in. He was the first one to jump in the water. He didn't know what the reaction was going to be with the Palestinians, with the rest of the Arab countries, but he made that courageous move and said, enough, we don't have a beef with these people. Let's look at the future together. Let's look at regional challenges together. Israel has innovation. We've built an economy in a few decades. They have. We have so much in common, diversity. And so I take my hat off to Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. And the beauty in the UAE is that once the ruler makes a decision, that the people have so much love and trust for him, then everybody went whoosh, got on board. We started doing Zooms, and we started creating organizations, and we started creating friendships. And really, the people-to-people element cannot be overstated enough, because people ask me all the time, what about the American administration, or what if it changes? Nothing can stop this now. The train has left the station. We're going towards peace, regional collaboration, coexistence, and nobody's stopping that train. So I really, it's I think the most significant thing to happen, I think, to the state of Israel. One of the most significant things to happen to the state of Israel since its founding, the normalization of Israel as a regional partner in the region.
Absolutely fascinating. Sure, you really have a front line seat there. Nura, you are on the Youth Council of the UAE, and the photo of you draped in an Emirati flag alongside Israeli Rani Gonen in front of the Burj Khalifa has become an iconic symbol of this historic new Middle East peace. What was your personal experience as captured in that photograph of meeting an Israeli for the first time in your life? How did it come about? And what kind of a role do you believe social media is playing in our times as a mediator in connecting people on the ground, challenging prejudice, and facilitating reconciliation among and between Emiratis and Israelis?
Okay, Khaya, you've asked me too many questions, but I want to ask you one. Imagine you being on an 80th floor with no railings. You tell me, what are you going to feel up there with a picture taken? There you go. That's it. So for me, I was terrified when the picture was taken. I was honestly, I don't know, I was so scared. But meeting an Israeli for the first time, she was the first person I've met physically, the first Israeli I've met physically. But before that, I met people on Zoom, and the friendship has grown. But Rani is a total different story. She has become my baby sister and my best friend. It is very different. We always have our Rani and Nura Thursdays. So being friends with an Israeli happened. Okay, friendships with Israelis, it's inevitable. Things are gonna happen whether people like it or not. I mean, because this time it's peace between the people, right? So Miss Fleur said that we had peace, or there is peace between Israel and Jordan, Israel and Egypt. I think, well, in my mind, 40 years ago, 20 years ago, social media was not there. Social media was not there. So it was just between the leaders to keep everything on a hush hush. That's it. No more wars, no more fights, no more arguments. And coming to your question, how is social media important and how is it affecting this peace treaty? This is how. This is it. It became peace between the people, and now you get to experience other cultures. Okay, there is no harm in learning. There's no harm in learning. There's no harm in coexisting. Here in the UAE, we have a ministry of tolerance. Okay, how we do it here in the UAE, we coexist. We've been coexisting ever since we were kids. And we have friends from different religions, different backgrounds, different race, different countries. It's very different. So in the UAE, when for us as people, when the peace treaty happened, it was normal. To us, it was normal because we've already been doing this since we were born. And also between us as families as well. In the UAE, there are people who get married to non-UAE nationals. It happens. So for us, it's very normal. And I love how Ms. Fleur said this is normalization. I don't like to use peace treaty because exactly there wasn't any blood between us. So it is normalization. That's it. Like, why not? We're both learning from each other. And to me, I was taught that knowledge is the key to everything. So why not learn? Why not? Why are we supposed to limit ourselves from learning and from grasping other cultures? Why not? We have it. We have over 200 nationalities in the UAE. It's a very small radius, but with plenty of nationalities. So why not learn more from Israelis?
Sure, that's a very interesting perspective. And I mean, to you, Fleur, Israel is home to citizens of different ethnicities, race, and religions. And as the leader of the Yerushalayim Party, which seeks to make Jerusalem a more pluralistic and open society, you are the deputy mayor of the largest, most diverse city in Israel, with a considerable 1/3 Arab population. So, you know, similar to what Nura is saying, in your view, has, you know, coexistence within this demographic, you know, and played a role in the way that Israelis are approaching this normalization? Do you feel that this demographic may have a special role to play in advancing peace building with Arab countries, particularly given the cultural, linguistic, and religious commonalities? And further to what you were saying, Nura, of course, there's also a Jewish community living in Dubai. So surely that also goes a long way in trying to bring about this normalization which you're speaking about. Flo, maybe you can just talk a little bit about kind of your work within the city of Jerusalem.
So contrary to what, sure. So contrary to what a lot of people are saying, I actually believe that this normalization of the Abraham Accords in general is very beneficial to the Arab Israelis in the country. And certainly the Arabs in my city, which are almost 40%, so it's more than a third of my city. So first of all, I'm so proud to live in a diverse city, a city of real diversity. And for all the bad press that we get, people don't understand. In Jerusalem, we live side by side. We have a shared society. You come to my gym, you will see an Arab headdress and a religious Jewish woman's headdress and no headdress, that's me, and all sorts of things. And so, and cafes and promenades, and everybody's walking their dogs, and we're living in a shared society. That's the reality. Anybody who wants to create a false parallel of apartheid, you guys know what real apartheid is, and all those false parallels are simply that, they're slander and they're false. I have 4 children, I gave birth 4 times, and every time I shared a hospital room with a lovely Arab woman from East Jerusalem. So anything else that people talk about is completely false to try and delegitimize Israel. But because my city is so diverse, I think my city should be the center of the Abraham Accords peace platform, because I want ultimately the young Arab engineers of my city to be able to take advantage of the fact that they speak Arabic, they speak English, they speak Hebrew, and they can actually help us create a R&D, a research and development hub in East Jerusalem for the entire Middle East. That's my vision, and that's a win-win, because that means that the Arabs, in fact, in my city and my country, have a special role to play here. They are the bridge, they are a very organic bridge to the Gulf, and they can benefit from it. And let me tell you, I've been flying backwards and forwards to the UAE since this whole thing started. I can't tell you how many Arab Israelis are flying up and down, who've been flying up and down for 5 years. They've been doing this already for a long time, and they tell me, oh, so nice, we have a direct flight now. And let me, just one more thing, just to get political for 1 second. Next week, we have an Israeli election. The Arab parties, who were the only people who voted against the Abraham Accords in the Israeli parliament, they are taking a beating in the polls because the Arabs of our country saw it as a good thing, and their representatives did not vote for the Abraham Accords. And the punishment they're going to get is that they're going to lose about 5 seats as a result. So I believe that the Arabs in my city and my country understand the benefits, and they're going to be, I'm hoping, and I'm pushing for them to be the first beneficiaries of this peace normalization.
Sure. Very interesting. But when you're talking about the engineers in your city and the opportunities that this piece of quarter normalization is going to open, I think just, to refer to the line that's oft repeated, in academic circles, the premise that if countries trade, they're less likely to go to war with each other. We can certainly be encouraged that this week, the UAE announced a $10 billion Israel Strategic Investment Fund to develop trade routes between the Gulf and Europe via Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel. And that the UAE will be investing in Israeli high-tech, cybersecurity, agri-tech, water desalination and recycling, and improved use of irrigation, as well as fintech space and energy. I'm going to keep going because I think South Africans should hear it, what the benefits are to good trade relations with Israel. There will be collaboration between Emirati and Israeli universities on medicine, medical robotics, and remote medicine, and training doctors and medical teams. In the field of energy, the UAE is interested in investing in making solar energy systems more efficient, with both countries wanting to expand use of non-polluting renewable energy. So this will have
Let me give you the bottom line of all this. The bottom line of all this is that we are looking at regional challenges as a region. And this is the investment that the UAE is doing. The UAE is saying, we want to invest in a common solution and strategy to our common problems. And that is a beautiful, positive message.
Absolutely. And Nura, you are a program manager in risk management in the banking sector. How are young people viewing these opportunities for collaboration? Is there this idea of, young people as the startup nation? Has there been opportunity for people to come together in young people in a business kind of setting?
Well, if you're asking me personally, I'm still thinking of opening a cafe, so something totally not business or high tech or medicine related. I just want to open a cafe in Israel, in Jerusalem, and then in Tel Aviv, to be closer to Miss Fleur. That's one. And two, regarding the youths talking about having collaborations and having some business opportunities, we actually, myself and my partners, are co-founders of a non-government organization, which is called UAE Is, which is a sister company to Israel Is. And it is also a non-government organization in Israel that has been established 3 years ago. And the CEO of the company of Israel is a very dear friend of mine, and he is basically my brother. His name is Eyal Biram. And we decided to make this thing happen in the UAE first, and of course we've expanded to Morocco and Bahrain as well. Now, what we want to achieve is not just business deals, not just high tech innovations or media outlets or whatever. No. This is not the point. The point is right now is to spread the culture of coexistence. Right now it is time for us to learn, and the first way to learn is to sit down on a table, and this is what we did at first. We sat down together on a table, started to discuss who are you Israelis, who are are you only Jewish people? Are you only Christians? Are you only, what is Israeli? What is an Israeli? And then I got an answer saying, what is an Israeli is a perfect question because we are a blend. So then I was like, a blend, what do you mean? Arab Israeli, Christian Israeli, Jewish Israeli, Druze Israeli. So I didn't know. I was ignorant towards the Israelis, period. I was ignorant. And a plus side of having such connections, culture of connections before anything else, is that now I know more about the Jewish community. And I started reading more, and I was interested more. Like I'm still interested in knowing some more things. And now I get to I don't know, I get to say some weird phrases like satsat lagabot. Like who in the hell knows this now? And me being a Muslim, an Arab, an Emirati saying "Psatsat lagabot" when I love my food. You know, like it's very different when you're connected culturally, and when you have that people to people connection. Then yes, you can start focusing on the high-tech businesses, on signing a contract, be it in medicine, be it in agriculture, aquaculture, whatever it is. So now us as the youths, we want to learn about each other and then grow in the business sector.
Oh, that's wonderful. Fleur, I understand that before the peace accord had even been ratified, you were in Dubai hosting the first ever Gulf Israel Women's Forum, and that you're also co-founder of the UAE Israel Business Council. From a woman to woman business kind of thing, has that played a role for you?
Absolutely. You know, when I created the Business Council, something was very clear to me, that we always have to create a women's forum, because women are really fantastic networkers. You know, we create much more value from networking. I think I read a research once that women create 10% more value from networking because we just talk more. And so I wanted to create a thing. And I went to one of my dear, dear old friends, Justine Zwirling, who created a Jewish women's business network 2 years before. So we were already in that kind of mode. And we said, let's create something. And at the time, I just had this feeling there was going to be more countries and it wasn't just going to do the UAE. So I said, let's make it broader, Gulf Israel Women's Forum. Today, we have women from Bahrain, we have women from Morocco, we really have women from everywhere. Nura, of course, is one of our leading members, the face of the Gulf Israel Women's Forum. And, you know, we didn't want to limit it just to business. So we say business, culture, friendship. Because ultimately, and I think Nora's alluded to it a few times, the culture of the Gulf is maybe a little different than Israel, maybe not totally different, but different in one sense. Israelis are very kind of practical, transactional people. We go there, okay, what are we going to do? What deal we're going to sign? And in the Gulf, the culture is all about building relationships, which I actually connect much more to that culture. My mother's Moroccan, so I come from a Sephardi background. And so I believe in that type of culture, building trust slowly over time, building relationships. And so the Gulf Israel Women's Forum is so important because that is the infrastructure for peace and coexistence. The infrastructure is building these friendships, creating these bonds, you know, seeing these women as our sisters. And what Nora says is so correct. You know, there's such a mutual curiosity going on between them, you know, all the Emiratis and Bahrainis and us. What do you eat? And what do you do here? And how's this festival? And what do you eat after the Ramadan? What do you eat for Pesach? And why don't you eat bread? It's like, I actually was quoted in the newspaper 6 months ago, said, it feels like we're dating. It did feel like we're dating. I think now we're moving into the first phase of the relationship.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's really amazing considering how small the percentage is of women who are involved as mediators, negotiators, signatories in peace processes worldwide.
I don't agree. I just want to say something. You're right. Visibly, there's very few women, but you have to understand, and Nora can attest to this, of course, much better than me. Women in the UAE and the Gulf in general are very, very strong. There's this misconception that women are somehow hidden away. Women are business leaders. Women are almost 50% of the ministers, 50% of the council. I wish in the Israeli Knesset we had 50% of members of Knesset like they do over there. And so women are, yes, you're right, Chaya, we have to be more visible, we have to be more upfront. But believe me, we're managing, we're stirring the pot of this relationship just as much as men are.
There you go. Middle East women are taking the lead, so the rest of the world can look forward. Wow. And naysayers, how's that been? What kind of opposition have you come across, like in your conversations? What kind of tone has it taken? Is it affecting the way you're thinking about it?
Look, I think, Nora, you should ask her that question, because in Israel, everybody's in favor. There's no naysayers, and I haven't had any negative, not one negative experience when I got there. They know I'm from Jerusalem. Israelis were telling me, oh, be careful, Jerusalem is sensitive. Everybody loves Jerusalem. They want to come and pray in Jerusalem. It's the third holiest site. I haven't had not one negative experience. But Nora who is really has been fighting. She's in the front lines of getting a lot of heat from lots of different people around the world. She can tell you about it, and she has stood firm and strong and a real ambassador for peace.
Nura, tell us.
Okay. So when the verbal agreement happened, I decided to just post a picture on Twitter and just tag one of the Israeli journalists, and I was like, "Can I visit Tel Aviv looking like this?" And I got a very beautiful response. But then the attacks started to emerge, and I'm still getting death threats, not from the Gulf whatsoever. I don't know where are they from. I wish I had some cybersecurity tool and just backtrace everything, but I don't have that. So when the picture happened, I was getting slammed. I was getting heat and hate, death threats, day and night, up until my Instagram account was locked. I was banned from using Instagram 3 times because of the peace treaty, because of the picture. And I used to suffer a lot of anxiety. I was on medications for a long period of time, and then once I stopped, I started to heal myself and practice how to get over an issue on my own. So when this happened, I remember shutting off social media and putting my phone away. I remember it was in September, and I booked a hotel, and I told my mom, I'm busy. I booked a hotel room, and I locked myself in for 3 days, and I would bawl my eyes out. I would cry. Like, what I'm doing is for peace. It's for people to live alongside each other. It's for people to coexist. It is how I was raised. This is how I was raised. This is what our leaders taught us to do, is to coexist, to live alongside with everybody. And I was crying myself to sleep. I'd wake up with my eyes poofy, and I would still be crying. I wouldn't have that energy, up until one day I was like, khalas, I'm done. I'm not going to go back to spreading peace. I was like, I'm going to step back. And then I checked my Instagram. It was banned. I was like, what happened here? So when I saw that, I was like, there are too many hateful people who claim they want peace around the world, but refuse peace with a certain society. That's bigotry. So what am I going to do is I'll go back full throttle, and I'll be as hard as ever. I don't care what hate is going to come against me or towards me. I don't care what people are going to say anymore. And now, trust me, I read those like hideous comments, and I laugh and I retweet. It became that funny to me. Okay. Once I speak my mind, I know what I'm saying is right. And I know what I'm saying reflects on a lot of people. I know that. But some people are still in denial. Okay. I get it. What you see in the media could affect you. But this is the media. Media needs to make money. They need to sell a story, whether it's fake, whether it's real, whatever it is, they need to sell a story. But me, I'm just a normal person. I didn't study media. I didn't even gain not even 1 shekel out of all of this. None of that. I'm doing it because I want to do it. I actually want world peace. I actually want that. Okay, like the whole globe is big enough for over 8 billion people very soon in the next couple of years. But why can't people live alongside each other? Why do you want to, I don't know, you don't want to see a certain race, a certain religion, a certain background? Why is that? Why do you want to demolish things? In Islam, I just want to make things clear. In Islam, God has put us on earth to build, to create, not to demolish. So what we are creating is amazing. We need to create more of that. Either create peace, create some new innovations, create love. this is Islam. This is Islam. Okay, so I know some people would be like, Muslims are the reason, but hello, I'm a Muslim, I'm covered up. I want peace. I'm very chill. I call Miss Fleur over here auntie. So it is very different. And I call Miss Justine Zwelling, who's not with us today. I call her Mama Bear because she's my guardian. She takes care of me. So no, we need to learn more about peace, about Islam, because Islam means peace. We need to learn more of that. We need to be that. We need to practice it more.
Well, Nura, thanks for sharing so candidly about your very personal experience, and how this has affected you. And ultimately, when you're talking about coexistence and people coming together, there's a change in your, your core belief system, in your identity, in everything, as your truths are challenged and you come to embrace a new kind of way of viewing the world and accepting people. So thank you for being so open with us and for giving us some insight into how you are very personally processing this experience. And I think, like, as South Africans who are watching this, I mean, there is something we can relate to, having gone through some sort of a reconciliation process ourselves, in this transformation from apartheid to a democracy. And we know that this is not something that happens overnight. It's not a linear process. This idea of, of overcoming prejudice and learning to live with each other. And I guess, what's so interesting about this conversation is that, we have the top down and down up kind of approach with a government representative, with you, Fleur, and with as a peace activist and a youth representative, Nura, because it kind of brings all the elements together when you have, the first structural changes that have to really be implemented at a government level, when, from the top down, leaders have to be brave and come forward, as you mentioned right at the beginning, Fleur. It really takes leaders who are going to have the courage to come and put their name to paper. And you being there in Dubai, even before the peace agreement was ratified, I would consider you as one of those courageous frontline leaders who really put this forward. But then again, it's not about just signing a piece of paper. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this, witnessing this UAE-Israel kind of coexistence experience is different to perhaps what you were intimating at the beginning, Flo, about the peace with other countries, is that this is really about a concerted effort to find opportunities for people to connect and to meet each other so that hearts and minds can change. So thank you. I mean, it's really a privilege to hear from both of you. I'm very moving. So thank you for your courage and your bravery. And just to know that, as we celebrate this new peace accord and this way of the world with you, we also confront, surprising reactions where not everybody embraces this idea of people coming together and celebrating peace, but amongst people. And sometimes it's a really peculiar position, especially when you're talking about, countries that they could play an active role in teaching about this kind of coexistence experience and bringing sides together and playing an active role and to see, concern noted and all other kinds of factors taken into account around a peace treaty is quite heartbreaking. Because ultimately what it comes down to is human beings and people being able to, like we said in the very beginning, Flo, for you to be able to be talking to us potentially from Dubai and Nura, you from Jerusalem, it's a beautiful thing. And I think it's hard to be on the receiving end for any of us who encounter, these naysayers, and hopefully this will pick up momentum going forward. On that note, I wanted to ask in terms of the kind of developments in the USA. So obviously, like, America was very fundamentally the third party in this whole negotiation. And how do you feel the change in administration? I mean, you said right at the beginning, Fleur, that this train has left the station. But I suppose just in terms of what kind of future partnerships we could be looking at within the Arab world, the Islamic world, potentially African countries, which would be very exciting for us. Do you think that there will be this momentum carried forward? What's your feeling? What's your sense?
I don't think anybody is going to stop peace because it's a good thing in general. I think a lot of conventional wisdom was broken with the normalization and the Abraham Accords in general. And I think that I hope that Joe Biden is smart enough not to throw away the baby with the bathwater as he tries to be a contra to everything Trump did. So the real question really is what he's going to do with Iran. But so far, he's not been so bad. I think he's understood that this has got its own legs. He can't stop it, so he might as well go with it. Whether, whether we would have, if Trump would have won again, we would have had peace with Saudi Arabia by now. I don't know. It's something we can dream about and aim towards. But all I can tell you is that from everybody I've spoken to in the US administration, the new administration, I don't think anybody is going to put any impediments on this wonderful thing. Whether they will do the same hand holding, I don't know. But the truth is, we're holding our own hands right now. So we don't, it was great that they initiated it, but now we're running together without any mediation necessary.
Well, that's really interesting. Also, your kind of reference to Iran. I'm wondering, Nura, we kind of know what people on the street in Israel think on a lot of these kind of things. I'm wondering, what is the feeling on the streets in Dubai about the changes in the American administration in terms of a relationship with Iran, kind of in this kind of Cold War, bringing in China? It would just be really interesting to know, like, where do people see themselves in a global context, and how would this kind of alignment with Israel kind of potentially cause people to rethink?
See, in the UAE, it's very different. In the UAE, as long as our leaders are happy, as long as our leaders know what they're doing, which they've been knowing ever since this beautiful country started, we don't worry about such things. We don't worry whatsoever. We trust our leaders blindly to go with whatever they're doing. The thing is about the UAE, which a lot of people don't know, is that we are patriots. We are patriots in the UAE. So if our ruler says peace with Israel, we full on go peace. If they say no peace with a specific country, it's no peace. Okay, so we go with our country with everything that's happening and with every decision they make. We never doubt. We are never skeptical about anything. We believe. Do you believe in God? Here's a question to you, Khaya. Do you believe in God? Okay. Do you have faith in him?
I do.
Okay. So what is faith? Auntie Fleur, what is faith?
Listen, all I can say is that I wish we had in our country just a little bit of the loyalty that you have to the leaders in the UAE, because in Israel it's like, I always say I go to Dubai for a cleanse to see how people who have trust and faith behave. And that's the bottom line. I have faith in God. I'm a religious woman like you.
Okay.
And I have faith in the leaders that have brought us to this point. Unfortunately, in Israel, everybody thinks they can do better. And this is a problem. Everybody thinks they can be the prime minister. And in your country, the difference is that you all have trust, faith, and love for your rulers. And that is a very different way of thinking for us, Nura. And like I say, I go to Dubai for a cleanse.
It is different. It is different here in the UAE because our leaders have a very different relationship with us. It's a family relationship. Like our leaders' doors are always open for us. So they get to sit down with you and they listen to you. So this is how you build that relationship from the bottom up. You need to sit down and see what is it that the people are facing. How can you make things different? So back to saying, do you have faith in God? What is faith? Faith is trusting blindly and knowing that good things are going to happen. Okay, when you have faith in God, you know that God is not going to fail you. This is how the people of the UAE have faith in the leaders. We know they're never going to fail us. And this is why we don't bother with whatever is happening around the world. Yes, on social media, people are gonna talk because they're bored. They're bored. They don't know what to talk about on Twitter, for example. But other than that, no. As long as our leaders know what to do, we are okay, and they always know what to do. So we don't really bother, because see, the political sense. I mean, we have if not the best policies and politicians in the world. I mean, we're at least at the top 10. So the politicians know what to do. Us, we're just peace activists. We're just social media influencers. The only thing I'm worried about is not to be peaceful anymore. And that's it. But as long as we all have, as Auntie Fleur said, we all have our hands together, we're holding hands and we're running with this, then we shouldn't worry about anything else. That's it.
Fair enough. Wow. So there's a question that's come from the audience to ask, what kind of impact will the Accords have from the Gulf to other regions like Africa? Do you think there could be potentially room for cooperation between Israel and the UAE and Gulf countries that would then be of benefit to other regions, particularly all these, cooperation in medical cooperation, high-tech cooperation, particularly in a hopefully one day post-COVID world, or at least, in the short term, preparing, ourselves for future, for the current situation and for future disasters. It's all going to be about cooperation between countries.
Well, I think it's actually much more than that, because the UAE is the hub for the East. It's the hub for the East. It's a hub for Africa. So for us, from a purely business perspective, what the UAE does is opens up us to the East much more than we have been, because the UAE is also a hub for logistics. And so from the UAE, the Israeli companies can actually much easier spread into the east part of the globe, when Israel traditionally has always been facing the west part of the globe. So that dynamic change is huge. And what we'd like to see also is for the East countries, the countries Middle East and Far East, to see Israel as their kind of entrance to America, to the West. And so I think this is why I believe it's a great win-win. We're very similar economies in the sense that we are the most advanced economies in the Middle East. Israel and the UAE, we have different but complementary strengths. And we're both very forward-thinking. And so really it's a match made in heaven in terms of business, in terms of global positioning and positioning of the region.
Sure. I mean, almost the sentiment, that created the state of Israel, if you will it's no dream. You kind of look at, an Emirati skyline and all you can think is, wow, someone had a dream. And it's just so splendid and so exciting. And so, it's there seems to be no limits to, your creativity and what you can bring. And with all new exciting museums and things opening all the time, it's just an incredible, for two small places, it's just such an incredible energy about looking, and making things possible. So I hear what you're saying about a match made in heaven. It does seem that way. Is there anything you are looking forward to doing? If you have one thing on your bucket list, Nura, when you get to Israel, Fleur, when you get back to the Emirates?
When I get to Israel, I really want to hug Auntie Fleur. And that's the main thing. And secondly,
and come to my house for Shabbat dinner with Justine.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. And then business talk. We open that cafe I was thinking about. So that's what I want to do. And then because of the social media platform that I have, I've made plenty of friends on social media from Israel that I really want to meet. So it's not something easy to do, but these people are not my fans. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not an actress. I'm not a singer. No, I'm just a peace activist. So those people are my supporters, and people who support me, I need to thank them personally. And this is what I want to do. I want to thank each and everyone personally for having my back, for supporting me. What I've been doing is really hard. It's difficult. And I'm pretty sure if you go on my Twitter account or on my Instagram account and just scroll through the comments, you'd see what is it that I'm talking about. It's exhausting, but with the love and with the support and the strength that the supporters are giving me, it's giving me the strength to do more. And this is the plan. This is the plan that I have in mind. I want to go to Israel and have probably like I don't know, plan something and thank them all at once, and I don't know, take selfies, make something more memorable, this is what I have in mind. That's it.
That's wonderful. And soon you'll be able to read all your fan comments in Hebrew. I understand you're learning a little bit of Hebrew.
A bit. I'm trying.
Very exciting. All right. Well, thank you so much. There are a whole lot of comments in all over, but I think thank you very, very much for joining us. It's been such a privilege to be able to meet both of you and to really watch this unfolding in action and to get a little bit of an insight into how you are experiencing this process on the front lines. It's really incredible, and all of us are here supporting you and here to bring all the love and support that we can in your incredible efforts to really change the face of the world, and that the roll-on effects of how this is going to impact everybody in so many places is really incredible. So thank you so much for your time and for joining us.
Chaya.
Open with us.
Thank you for having me, Chaya. Thank you so much.
And yes, we wish you all the very best in all of your endeavors. Sorry, there's so many messages coming from everybody, or wishing you love from all over. People are listening in from all over the world, from Argentina, from India, from Cape Town, from Johannesburg. Everybody's just sending lots of love and strength to both of you. And thank you so much for coming. And we wish you, lots of comments, and we just wish you shalom.
I love you all. I love you all. Thank you so much. And inshallah, very soon, it is right now, Israel is and UAE is, soon it's going to be the globe is. We're going to spread peace all over the world with the help of you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Maybe you can start a South Africa is with this crowd, Nura. You have a lot of fans now.
Who knows?
We would love that, and we would love to welcome you to Cape Town, and Fleur, we would love, and Nura, to come. Maybe we could facilitate some interesting conversations on this end, which I think it would be really wonderful. So thank you so much.
I'd love that.
And all the best for all of us here in South Africa.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Chaya, Nura, and Fleur. I'm sure you'll all agree that was a fantastic discussion. Please don't forget, we have another interesting webinar coming up on Sunday, the 21st of March, starting at 7:30 South African time. It is called Pandemics, Polls and Politics, Israel Decides 2021. Featuring Tal Schneider, political correspondent for the Times of Israel, James Marlowe, another political correspondent, and Michal Kotler-Wunsch, an Israeli member of the Knesset. I'm sure you don't want to miss that. For all the information and for booking details, please visit the website www.sazf.org. Thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time, and we will see you at the next one. Thanks, everybody.